Yo, what's up guys? Neil with Normal Guy Fishing. Hey, I just put together a clear, concise, to the point lure review for the Deps 175. And when I went to edit it, I realized I was about to fall asleep trying to edit the dang thing. I'm just not going to be able to sit down and do a straightforward review like that. Reviews are important to me. They're important to this channel. It's one of the reasons I made it. I wanted to contribute to the knowledge and help, people trying to buy these big, expensive baits especially, just help out in your decision. But I'm not going to be able to do it quite as clear and concise as maybe I should. But if I don't do something for me in this channel and doing these isn't going to last long, it's not fun. So here goes nothing. Man, these things are always coming off. This right here is the Deps 175 and it's got such sharp hooks I shouldn't have taken those off. Anyway, this is the reason for the video. 7.5-inch glide bait made by Deps. That's a Japanese company. Weighs about 3 ounces. This color here is flash carp, not to be confused with Butch Brown flash carp. I hate this angle. Let's try something new. Alright guys, I'm back. Sorry about that. I gotta stand up or it's just, I'm gonna fall asleep doing it. Anyway, like I was saying, dang that looks good. Deps 175, 7.5-inch bait, 3 ounces. Deps is a Japanese company. The retail price on these is about $110, so they are not a cheap bait by any means. There are more expensive baits. There's the Roman Maid Mothers, most Roman Maids, Hinkle's baits, but this is not by anybody's standard really a cheap bait. This is again 175 7.5-inch version. They also make a 250 that you actually see probably more often from those guys out on the West Coast. I'm not from the West Coast. Almost every review I've found of big baits comes from somebody on the West Coast, so I want to give another opinion from somebody out in the middle. I'm in Tennessee. I've thrown this in ponds, I've thrown it in reservoirs, big to small, and I don't know, I think I have a little different take on it than a lot of people out in California. Now with the 3 ounce, it is a slow sink bait. It's not a wake bait by any means. It drops decently fast, not too quick, nothing that you can't control. I'm not super scared to throw it when I know there's vegetation or grass or timber or whatever, a couple feet below. But with that 3 ounce bait, you're gonna need a big rod to throw it. I have 2 swim bait rods. I primarily use the Dobbins 795 Fury series and a Daiwa DX SB extra heavy. The extra heavy is rated from 3 to 10 ounces. That's what I normally throw this lure on. The Dobbins is rated up to 5 ounces. I've thrown this 175 on the Dobbins multiple times. It doesn't do a bad job by any means. It's really, I just throw it on the bigger rod mostly because it's got heavier line on it and this is expensive. Disclaimer, I didn't spend $110 on this lure. I got it for $60 from a buddy who was selling it used. It just sat in his box. Basically, he moved up to a 250 to the bigger brother and this just wasn't getting any use, so I was able to get a good price on it. Here's some footage of the Deps 175 being thrown on the Daiwa DX SB extra heavy. It loads it up just fine. It's rated from 3 to 10 ounces like I said, so it's at the very lowest range of what the rod is rated for, but has no problem slinging this thing out here. I keep this lure on this rod probably 70% of the time there is a lure tied onto it. I use this lure a lot. Let's get into some of the pros, or some of my favorite parts about this Deps 175. First of all, I love the color. Deps cranks them out in a whole lot of colors. There's the flash carp like this, the Butch Brown flash carp. There's, your host of trout colors and some kind of like chartreusey, brighter colors. They really run the gamut. So if there's a color you want, you can probably find it in a Deps 175. Now, one of my favorite parts about this bait are for sure those hooks. Man, those are the stickiest hooks, the absolute stickiest I've ever gotten on a stock bait. These things have, like, if I ever hook myself past the barb, which, you know, hopefully I don't, might happen one day, I would put money it's going to happen with this. This thing, these hooks will get in deep real quick, which is great for fishing. Annoying for every other time. Now, another pro, with this being a glide bait, it's supposed to have that nice S action, right? It's supposed to really kick out to one side, kick out to the other, stay kind of in one spot, be moving without moving too far away from the fish, if that makes sense. It looks like an easier meal for the fish compared to, like, let's say a Huddleston that's just sitting there kicking, super lifelike, but sitting there kicking in a straight line. This kind of stays in front of the fish's face longer. And with that, this bait is super easy to slow roll. And it'll do those nice S's. And it's a good enough glide bait. And this is kind of a test for a lot of people. They want to be able to make that glide bait do a 180. They want to make it go from this S to, if they have a follower coming up, they want to be able to kick it back around and be facing it. This bait turns head on into a largemouth that's following it. He gets to eat it head first, which is what he wants to do anyway. What he just programmed to do is try to get that bait head first. It's a no-brainer. It triggers it. It's awesome. 180s, no problem. You just get a little bit of slack line and you just whip it. Takes a little practice, no big deal. You can also do half turns with this bait pretty easy. That's when you're cranking the reel just enough basically to make it go off to one side. You pause, crank the reel again just enough to make it go off to the other. So it does those nice lazy S's and you can get them even slower. Same way if you want to use the rod as the rod tip, kind of push it downward and you can get that same motion going. You can't fish these super fast, but at a moderate speed, they're awesome. This has caught me the biggest bass I've caught to date. And I did it slow rolling it. I threw it out, just bombed the cast out in about 35 feet of water, and I was bringing it back in at the edge of a pier on a marina. And about 10 feet out from the edge of the pier, the bass had already come out and hammered it right then and there. It was probably 3 feet under the water. Good clear water conditions when you want to be throwing a swim bait. It was awesome. It's part of the reason that this stays on there so much. And this has caught me, again, my biggest, but it's also caught me way down to like sub 2 pounders. Now, the lure's not perfect by any means. With it being, you know, $110, kind of what sets it apart in a category sort of its own is this skin. It's actually got an injected body if you have one of the new versions, and it's got this rubber coating around it, this skin around it. You can see in the tail here, let me get that focused in. On the tail, that is all just the rubber skin, right? But with that cool rubber skin is, I'm not going to call it, it's not a problem, but it's something you have to be mindful of. Just like a soft plastic big bait, these are pretty notorious for getting their tails kinked or like off to one side. And currently, that tail is off to one side. Now they're pretty easy to fix. All you have to do is dip that tail in some boiling water, bring it back up and let it hang straight down. No big deal. I've fixed this one before. I'll fix it again. I obviously have to now. But right now, if I threw this out and really tried to work it on, especially when you're twitching it, you notice it more than just kind of a slow roll. But I don't know how many times I've hooked myself already this video. Anyway, the lure's gonna go left. Great, the way this tail's kind of stuck. It's not wanting to go right very well. It's gonna kind of do a half turn right, and then a big turn left, and then a half turn right. Now, it's important to get that fixed. You want it even, because you don't know when you're gonna see that follower, and when you're gonna wanna pop that 180. I can't, there's no way right now with this tail. I mean, that tail isn't that messed up, but right now, I couldn't make this bait spin around backwards. Couldn't do it. So it's important to keep the tail straight. All it takes is putting it in the box wrong or setting something on top, and you kink that tail like that. Next thing you know, You left it in there for a day, you forgot about it, you got to fix your tail. So that is something to take into consideration. It's not necessarily a terrible thing. It's just, I mean, $110 lure, you're probably going to baby it anyway. So pay attention to that. You know, and the question is, $110, why spend that much for something like this? Well, that's just something you're going to have to answer yourself. I mean, like I said, you can get it probably, I'd say all day for $80 shipped to your house if you're looking on eBay and different places. But for $110, you can get this. Swims just fine, swims great. You do have to kind of maintain the skin, you know, no big deal, but it is definitely unique. You can get lip weights for them, you can get different things. Way more collector-y, I guess you'd say, than something like this. This is the Savage Gear 3D Shine Glide. Similar sized lure. This swims every bit as good as this when the tail's straight. And this is just, you know, hard plastic, nothing crazy. It gives off a good shine just like the Flash Carp does. But this is $25. I can't tell you to go one or the other. You know, that's your decision to make. If you want to go this route, because that hook is like fully in my finger. Anyway, from just a practical standpoint, I like the Savage Gear. I don't throw it as much because I got the confidence with this. This caught me my biggest fish. I've thrown it more, so it's not a fair comparison. And you're gonna find that a lot. A lot of people's opinions are based on really just what they've thrown the most. They don't realize they're biased, but I mean, I like it because it's caught me my biggest fish. Like, how could I set it down to throw this, even though I think this maybe even swims a little better? It certainly swims easier. It's easier to control. I am happy, 100% happy with my purchase here. This is a lure I would go swimming for, no matter how many times it sits here and hooks me when I'm trying to do a review and say nice things about it. I'd go swimming for this one any day. I've almost had to multiple times, to the point where I'm like taking off my shoes and stuff. I don't really want to put like a rating on this. I don't own enough swim baits, I feel like, to start rating things 1 out of 10 or something like that. I will say I don't know anybody that's purchased one of these and not been satisfied, not been happy with it. You know, you be the judge whether it's worth it, spending the money. It's a proven bait. It will catch you fish. It's not that hard to use. You do just need to be careful with it and how you store it. Nothing is more frustrating than taking this out on the water and realizing the tail screwed up. So, things to keep in mind. Like, comment, subscribe, all that business. Let me know if it needs to be more concise. I just want to help out and also have a little fun while I'm doing these, but I'll see you guys next time.